Recording starting now. You're on. So we'll do like a cool intro right here, right?
Yeah, this is where the intro will be. Exactly.
It's Meat-Tater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though we're kind of, I don't know how this will necessarily go, but I was actually thinking about a particular segment. Like if we're going to do Meat and Tater, I think would be really great. Is if we did this, however often we do it, you would bring something that's like a fresh news story or like something that's like a hot topic at the time, and we could say it's like fresh off the grill, like brought to
Okay, dope. I like it.
meat,
Yeah.
bringing something fresh off the grill, so your meat fresh off the grill.
You sure you're doing this podcast thing on the side?
Dude, I have thought about doing a podcast for so long. Like I've tried to do it in so many different avenues, like sports, religion. I've just tried to do it in so many different ways, and I've thought about it. And I listen to tons of podcasts, and I pay attention to like their creative side. Like a lot of people are just there for content, and I actually listen to. There's one called On Being by Krista Tippett, and she just interviews like poets and writers and politicians and all kinds of people. And they have an uncut version that you can listen to. It's like 30 minutes longer, but you get to hear all of the stuff. So I've just been interested in it for a while, and I'm hoping that this works. And then if it does, like we do a couple of trial things, I'm going to definitely invest in some equipment.
Cool. Yeah, I need a microphone anyways because I shoot video for this stuff that I do. So if I could just get a little extra mileage out of it, I'd be super excited.
Yeah. So onto our list. So basically how I've seen it done before is that I've heard it called One's Gotta Go. And so we can call it that, or we can call it whatever. If we want to come up with a more creative name, we can call it whatever. But we kind of create our 1 through 5 list, and then our 5th person is the person that's got to leave. And sometimes I've seen it just work down to where you basically have 2 options left, and each guy's arguing for the last one. And it kind of works out that way for some people. Obviously, we might agree sometimes, and we might have different reasonings why. But that's just kind of the breakdown. So I can go first to kind of give you.
Let's do that. Yeah.
So my top 5 list of I don't even know if I want to call it top 5 list. This will be something that I will have tons of notes and like be fairly scripted moving forward to just be like, okay, this has got to be a lot smoother, but I'll try not to do that out loud this time. So we have a list of 5 fighters and all of their accomplishments. And so we're going to get rid of one, and all of their accomplishments have to go with them. All of their influence has to go with them. So
we can call this like the Grand Prix.
Do what?
The Meatball and Taters Grand Prix.
There you
go. There's only one at the end, right?
Right. Yeah. I like it.
Okay.
Like
it. Meat and Taters Grand Prix. Ready, fight.
Huh?
Ready, fight.
Yeah. There you go.
This will be better now.
So my first off the list is going to be Anderson Silva.
Like we're gonna take Silva off. He's got to go.
No, he's got to stay.
He's got to stay. Oh.
Yeah, so we're saving the one that's got to go for the very end.
Okay. It's the opposite of the Grand Prix.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So 4 out of 5 are staying. I'm starting with the first one.
Okay.
And that's going to be Anderson Silva, and the main reason is going to be because of his unstoppability throughout his career. Like now near the end, he really, when he started getting older, started facing younger opponents that really kind of had him figured out. He was a little bit easier to defeat, but he dominated the game similarly to Michael Jordan, to Tiger Woods, Wayne Gretzky. This guy, perennial, like great through other sports. Like Anderson Silva is that guy in the UFC. So if we're going to keep anybody in all of their accomplishments, it's going to be him. I think he really paved the way for a guy that was truly a mixed martial artist. Like he, not only was his stand-up nearly undefeatable, but nobody really wanted to tango with him on the ground either, because he was really, really good there as well. He would invite people to engage him on the ground, and he never had any takers. So I just think in my mind, the first guy I'm saving from being deleted from UFC history is Anderson Silva.
Okay. So do I contend that point, or do I pick who my?
I
Do I
would
add
say
somebody to this list?
that if you wanted to add some color to what I said, then I would go with that. Or if you wanted to say, he's not my first off the list, and here's why, because this guy's the first off the list for me. You can kind of however you want. Like if there's not much you really want to add, then you can just say that. You can just say that.
I totally agree with you on everything. The guy is just dominant everywhere. The only thing he didn't do was wrestling, but that's because he would just kind of let people come in and pick their poison. Like, how am I going to beat you? I'll let you choose.
Right.
Am I going to choke you? That's your decision. Am I going to knock you out? I can do that too. So, yeah, I totally agree. He's probably my number one pick. So, yeah, good pick,
Very
dude.
cool. Yeah, thanks. I thought number one draft picks are usually pretty easy, so I thought
great minds think alike.
Yeah, and another point on him too that I just thought of is the guys that he faced were so well rounded. It wasn't just like we'll talk about him later, like Royce Gracie. Like he faced guys that were very one dimensional, but Anderson Silva did not. He faced a lot of guys that were very well rounded, and to your point, he met them wherever they wanted to go, and he just stopped there. So yeah, I totally agree.
Cool.
But I think what would be good here would be to like alternate. So like I don't want to just like, okay, now I'm going to go second and then I'll go third. Like we should alternate here. So
man, so I listened to this radio show called the Big Mad Morning Show, and they have on Wednesdays they have like top 5 songs and then like something to do to, like, I don't know, it's like to grill to or to work on your house to, and then some of them are a little bit more risque, like wrinkle the sheets to, whatever. So I don't know, I kind of have that format in my head, but
okay,
we'll do it. This is your thing. If that's how you want to do it, I'll do it that way.
I'm flexible. Let's just try out different things. That's what this is for. So
okay, cool.
If you've got like a top 5 way you want to go, then let's do that too.
Let's do this. We might try it that way next time for like top 5 football teams.
Sure.
That we're not going to get to watch this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So my first pick that has to stay would probably be I'll have to go George St. Pierre. Part of it is because I personally have a little bit of a man crush on him. But he's a super nice guy. Like, I think he's probably the most humble fighter in the entire UFC, in the history of the UFC. And his record, percentage-wise, is a little bit better than what Silva's was. And I think, personally, one of those is kind of a fluke. Like, I don't think Matt Serra, in his wildest dreams, would ever hope to beat GSP. He caught him on the button. And then GSP came back and avenged that loss like an MFer, man. Like, he demolished. He ran through Matt Serra. I'm actually unaware of what his other loss is. Do you know what that was?
It's Matt Hughes.
Okay, well, we know how that trilogy played out, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So if I have to go back and say, he came back and kind of put the nail in the coffin for who was the better out of that trilogy. So, that's my second pick. Nice guy, crushing it in the ring. Had a couple of losses, but he went back and avenged them handily. GSP.
I like your number 2 pick. I think it's not going to be my number 2 pick, but I do like him in that spot. It was him or the guy that I'm going to pick next. But I think you saw the way that he cared about integrity in the fighting industry because of how he responded to his loss with Matt Hughes. Because Matt Hughes was just your country boy, just bully, kind of an approach to MMA. And George St. Pierre didn't like it when he lost to Matt Hughes. Didn't like all the trash talk leading up to that fight.
I remember it all now.
And then the arm bar that Matt Hughes caught him in was also kind of fluky. And I think that really, really pissed GSP off. He knew. And I think he famously said, "I'm not impressed with performance. Like that was his response to
Yeah.
in a losing effort. He said to Matt Hughes, "I'm not impressed with your performance," even though he lost. And Matt Hughes was like, "Yeah, whatever." And then Matt Hughes goes on to lose in that rematch. So I do think GSP could have been the GOAT had he not. I think he suffered an ACL tear, and that really set him back. And then he just kind of left the game. I can't remember I think he had an injury where he walked away.
I think it was the ACL. Yeah.
And also he was freakishly athletic. Like he was. I mean, a lot of guys are obviously athletic in the fighting game, but he was well ahead of his time when it came to just pure raw athlete. But
he did a lot of gymnastics on the side. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but he's not my second pick. My second pick is going to be Hoist Gracie, just because of the road that he paved for so many guys to follow in his footsteps. He brought finesse to the most brutal sport, outside of movies probably, or outside of something that's underground. You know what I mean? I think Hoist Gracie, he didn't have the muscular build. He wasn't 6'7" or however tall Dan Severn was. He was a monster of a man. He helped bring, like I said, that finesse and that grace to MMA with jiu-jitsu. Like he brought it in. He not only did that, but he created a legacy for his own family. He created something that would reach beyond just entertainment. He's got, I'm sure there are hundreds of gyms across the country, across the world, that can say, hey, it's because of watching Hoist Gracie perform at that level against these guys that were bigger and stronger than him, and he found a way to use his mind, and he found a way to use grace over them, and he just I think he paved the way for the sport to survive because of introducing like legitimate mixed martial arts, not like karate. Like you had a legit guy that was like karate, but not really. That wasn't really mixed martial arts at that time. So
yeah, gotcha.
Hoist Gracie,
Hoist Gracie, that's your number 2 pick, right? So
yeah, that's number 2.
Yeah, I think for me, Hoist is kind of at the bottom, and I totally agree with everything that you're saying about what he did for the sport. Like, I don't even think UFC would be a thing if Gracie hadn't won in one of the first. I think he won 3 of the first 4 or something like that. If he hadn't been so dominant, people would just see UFC as like brutes. Like it's just modern day gladiator fighting.
Right.
It wouldn't hold. Like people would just say, "Well, what's the difference between this and boxing?" Like he put UFC on the map. I think Dana White has him to thank for that career. Even was Dana White the?
No, but I think Lorenzo Fertitta might have been around at that point.
Yeah, the guy that he inherited UFC from. Yeah. It wouldn't be a thing. They would have no popular. They wouldn't be who they are today without Hoist Gracie. So, while I recognize all of that, I think that he's like the Stoneball of UFC, or like the Joe Montana, or like a Tom Brady. Like he had all that stuff around him, but like, or I guess Tom Brady's pretty modern and he does well. But like Gracie today, if he was in his prime, I don't think he would compete nearly as well with the other people that are there, just because the sport has made so much progression. Maybe that's not fair to him, but that's why I think he probably doesn't belong on the list. But who I think is more like a modern day Gracie would be Damian Maia. He's a big jiu-jitsu guy, easily the number 1 way that he puts people away is submissions. I'm looking at his wins. He's got 28 wins. Half of them are by submission. Only 3 of them are by knockout, and then a lot of them go to decision too. So half of his wins are by submission. Killer jiu-jitsu, and so he kind of followed in those footsteps of, that finesse that you're talking about, like handling everything with, instead of the brute force, like just taking people out, he goes in there and says, yeah, I'm going to pretend to murder you, and you're just going to have to deal with it. So to me, I find that highly entertaining. That's why I'm a jiu-jitsu guy. So Damian Maia.
Very nice. Okay, so I'll start round 3 with my guy that stays. So I had my number 1. I'll recap. My number 1 was Anderson Silva, and you agreed, right? That was your number 1 as well.
Yeah.
And then so your number 2 was then GSP,
Mm-hmm.
and I followed that up with my number 2 being Royce Gracie. So my number three is going to be John Jones. And I really struggled with John Jones a lot, mostly because of PEDs and his, outside of the ring, you use cocaine and snort it off a hooker's breast, then hey, I don't. That's part of your legacy in some way, but I don't know that really affects your UFC legacy as much as it would affect your lifestyle legacy. So the guy, he's got a no contest because of PEDs, and his one loss was because of what I think most UFC or mixed martial arts fans would say was a very bad call on a DQ. Like he got disqualified. He was beating the guy pretty much mercilessly, and then, if I'm not mistaken, threw a knee to a downed opponent's head. So I think that's the reason why I'm going to have to keep John Jones higher, is just because no one ever beat him, like legitimately beat him. And the guy that got the closest, I think, was probably Alexander Gustafsson. And their rematch, Gustafsson got knocked out, like TKO'd. So I wanted to put Jones as my guy out. Like it was either he was going to be number 3 or he was out. Like I was just getting rid of him. So I was really torn. But just thinking of how hyped I got watching him fight and how much he could change in the ring. 'Cause that's one of the things that, in my mind, what makes a more complete UFC fighter, and for the legacy of like building the next wave of people, is how he could adjust in the ring from round to round. Most guys that adjusted in the ring from round to round was like, okay, don't get punched in the face as much this time and try to take him down. Like that was kind of the adjustment. But John Jones could like just completely change his approach to the whole fight, mid-fight, and just truly never got beaten. And that's so hard to do in the UFC, and to hold that for such a long time. So that's who I have at number 3 is John Jones.
8 title defenses, but then had to vacate it. I'm looking at his stats right now.
Okay.
Yeah. He is my guy that's out, so I'll touch on him last.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Dang. So I'm really jumbled up on this format here.
Okay, so where you'll go next is you'll go ahead and give your third spot guy, like who are you going to put in. Right? So since you're going to save your commentary for Jones for the end, then you can just jump straight into your third guy.
Yeah. So I think I just talked about my third guy was Damian Maia.
Okay.
So because we agreed on Silva, and then I put GSP in the second, and then I talked about Maia as my third guy. So we are kind of doing like a top 5 here then.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, but we're trying to just rank the people on that list.
Yeah.
That same list.
I'm going to write these down as we go, so that way we can kind of keep track.
Yeah.
So I've got Silva, Gracie, Jones. You've got Silva,
GSP, Maia.
GSP, Maia.
So right. Then, yeah, I guess I would just fill out my last 4 as Gracie and Jones. So I think I talked about Royce whenever you were talking about him, how much he did for the sport. Ken is like undeniable. Like I really feel most people that know anything about UFC history probably feel at least a little bit the same way. They respect what he did for the sport. So, yeah, he's going to be my number 4, and then Jones. Man, I think what you're talking about, the PEDs, I really am a believer that everybody in the league is doing it at some point or another. But for whatever, John Jones just can't afford not to get caught with it. So, I mean, if everybody else figured out a way to do it right, why can't you do it right? It's right. Really, for me, it's the only thing that's tarnishing his legacy is that, he keeps getting caught with the PEDs. And, I mean, I guess Dana White had to, or maybe it was the anti-doping, but they said, you know what, maybe we'll just make cocaine okay because we keep finding it in this guy's system and he's he's making a lot of money for us, so maybe we should just make cocaine, okay?
Yeah.
I don't know. That guy's on the bottom of my list. He's an outstanding fighter for all the reasons you said, but man, just he doesn't. I gotta have a little bit of. I gotta have the holistic picture here, and he's just missing that part for me.
Yeah, that's a really good point to say that how he's tainted the sport puts him as the guy that goes out of the list. I can see that. That's a really good point. I just I just didn't think it was enough because, like you said, most people are probably doing it. It's like baseball. It's like most other sports. Just about everybody's doing the thing that you're not supposed to get caught doing. But when you're the guy that gets caught, it really taints your legacy and it taints the sport.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm probably saying the word taint too much for a podcast, so we don't know who the audience is.
No, man, it's we could throw the explicit tag on there. I don't know.
Right. These guys taint a lot. That's cool.
Yeah. Maybe they should change the name of their podcast from Meat-N-Taters to Meat-N-Taints.
Meat-N-Tater.
I don't think that has the same connotation that you.
Yeah, people will be tuning in for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, I've got this wart on and I don't know how to get rid of it. Yeah.
Like no, that's not what we might dabble into talking about handing your perineum, but that's only for us to think about it.
Oh boy.
So I'll finish out my list real quick before we digress too far into the void
parts.
Yeah. So to finish out my list, I've got 4 and 5. I've got GSP at 4, just because I can't let who he is as a face of the industry for so long, as undefeatable as he was, how quickly he rebounded from his losses and how dominant he was in rebounding from those losses. I think he also just brought, like you said, the class that, you got a bunch of meatheads beating each other up, and then you have a guy that can do that, but he doesn't buy into it because he takes his craft seriously. He's a professional. And so for that reason, I can't leave him off the list because you need that in a profession of guys that are just, Clay Guida is like the physical embodiment of the UFC. He looks like a caveman. He fights like a caveman.
Right on. Yeah.
So you don't want that to be the image of your league. You want, professional, that kind of stuff. So, and the only reason I'm really leaving Maia off the list is just because he can never string together like championship runs and defenses. And then the guys that he's lost to, it's like, really? Like, come on, you're a world-class, jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah.
And his lay and pray matches I've seen him fight, like against Anderson Silva, it was just one of those things. It's like, if as a fan of mixed martial arts, period, I can totally understand what he's doing and why he's doing it. But as far as entertainment goes, which is a big part of the UFC, like if there is anything that I would get rid of as far as that goes, it would be the stalling on the ground that happens a lot. So it's not so much Maia, because I think Maia is one of the most underrated fighters for UFC history, like super underrated as far as his skills go. He had better hands than what people would give him credit for, but he also, like, nobody wanted to tango with him on the ground. Nobody wanted to get involved. So I think I saw that he was a 4th degree black belt. So, you don't get there by being a slouch at all when it comes to the ground game. And like tons of like international medal competitions for just jiu-jitsu. So anyway, but I just have Maia off the list only because, I can't squeeze him in, at 4.5. I had to put somebody up.
Have to get rid of somebody. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Exactly. So I think we could probably do like an honorable mention thing there. That just kind of popped in my mind. So if this is something we do like as a part of a podcast moving forward, I kind of just wanted this to be like, see our dynamic, see how we did together, which I think, obviously we've got history together, so that helps. We're not just two random personalities trying to figure it out and make it work. We actually kind of know each other fairly well.
Make fixes at each other on the screen too.
Yeah. I had to put my knees down because I didn't want too much guy thigh on the
I'm okay with that.
Um,
Not going to scare me away.
I think we do honorable mention section if we're going to do lists of any kind, just to kind of expand the content a little bit, and then to be a little bit more, maybe a little bit sillier there because I kind of wanted to throw, Randy Couture. I wanted him on the list only because of the fact that he spanked Tito Ortiz on live television. Like the guy's got to be. He's got to be mentioned just for that at least. You don't spank another grown man on national television. Not
get on our list somewhere.
Right.
Not get on Meat-N-Tater's list. Yeah.
Exactly.
Man, I wish I'd have been prepared for this. I'm gonna pick one of the guys that I had before, Nate Diaz.
Oh yeah. That's a good honor.
He has a lot of good wins that never amounted into any kind of championship runs for him, but he's beaten a lot of good guys like Conor McGregor. I get it.
Right.
I think they were catchweight fights, or at least one of them was. But he beat him twice. Why isn't he getting any shots at any kind of title? Why isn't he being hyped up for that stuff? And a lot of people would pay pay-per-view prices to see Nate Diaz go get a title somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's my honorable mention.
Yeah, he's really good. I almost left him on the list of 5, and I didn't know who to bump though, just because of make so many good arguments for all of these guys.
And I think people say that he's actually really cool. Like whenever the cameras are off, like he does cool things. Like I think he's got some charity in Oakland, like helping kids read. Like he's a good guy. He smokes a lot of pot, whatever. But
right.
I mean, yeah, he's a good guy, except for his drug habits, which in California, it's all good now anyways. So
right. Yeah. Say more power to it. Yeah, Nate Diaz is a guy that he'll fight anybody. That's another reason. That's maybe a reason he should have made the list in the first place, just because he's not scared to fight anybody.
And he did see him fight Brock Lesnar.
He would. I guarantee he would take it if you gave him enough money.
I bet he would. Yeah.
He would do it. And here's the thing: he'd probably beat Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, it's
Brock
really
Lesnar get tired in 3 minutes. His diverticulitis will kick in and he'll blow his blood hole out the back. And the fight's over.
Oh no! Is that a no contest? What happens whenever somebody craps their pants in the ring?
If I don't know, if you tap out, then that's just a loss. You got to
say who's tapping to that one.
Yeah. You got the O-ring sitting in your lap. You're probably going to be the one to tap out.
Yeah, I agree. It's me. I got to go, Coach. I'm doing it. No. Cool.
But so what do you think? Do you like that? We could totally kick this idea as far as if you don't like the setup of it or whatever. We could totally kick it as a concept and try a different format. We could do more of like pick a topic and we each pick a side and argue a side and try to get a feel, like an actual debate style thing where we, I don't know, just pick something like should sex be legal?
What's that? Did you say sexually illegal?
No. Should sex work be legal? Like, should prostitution be legal?
Should prostitution be legal? I think there's probably a lot of regulation that it needs, but it's legal in other parts of the world and it seems to be doing okay. Those countries haven't fallen into debauchery and, just anarchy, which I think a lot of people here probably will make a case for that as reasons why we shouldn't. But I don't know. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Exactly. There's so much other stuff that's actually legal. So why, escorts.
Exactly.
Why not prostitution?
They're gonna go the whole mile anyways, so might as well just let her get paid for it.
Yeah. So, but something we can do, like, if we want to try to record another one, is we can pick something like that and then, like, just pick a side. I wouldn't care. I can try to argue from a side even if I don't agree with it. So